Finally got it working. Okay, well, I don't know if you guys saw anything that I just did, but that doesn't matter. We're going to start the class now, and yeah, it's 2 minutes late. Um, I apologize ahead of time if I tend to ramble a lot, but
Seems
that's
great.
just what I do. Okay, so for the sake of this live stream and eventual archiving of this data, I am going to build on a cruiser because it's rather uh, so delayed. We're going to do this on a cruiser, as you see the assault cruiser refit. Now, the most important thing to remember is that your weapons, as that I use beam arrays in this, match your attack consoles. In this case, I'm doing phasers for cannon reasons. Most of the gear I'm using is from the exchange, like all of the beam consoles and a couple of the other ones. But there are a couple that are special drops, like the impulse engines, the shields, this 8th weapon slot, and this console. The weapon and the console come from the Omega reputation. Forget what levels because it's been a while. The engines and the shields come actually from one of the missions that you can run. I think it's Sphere of Influence, right? It's Step Between Stars then. Yep. Right, so a Step Between Stars will grant you 3 parts of a 4-part set. It's great for beginners because it is a Mark 12 set, and it's really easy to get. You just follow all of the on-screen prompts. Alright, so you always want to make sure that you build your ship the way you like to fly. So if you want to go in with your guns ablazing and kill everything in front of you, by all means use cannons on an escort. If you want to go in like an old naval vessel and broadside, cruisers are better for you with all beam arrays. Now, if you want to be that space wizard who can sling gravity wells around and heal people and make sure the enemy can't do anything, science vessels are probably the best fit for that. I'm doing a cruiser since it is very easy and very basic, and everybody loves the Enterprise. Alright, so step number 1, obviously, find a ship that you enjoy to fly. Step number 2, what role do you want to play? Do you want to play your damage dealer, or do you want to play your tank, or do you want to play like a support role as like a healer? All of which are viable, but you do need to do a certain amount of damage with Delta Quadrant's expansion. Alright, so this ship is just a basic damage. I don't actually know what kind of damage it's at yet, but we'll figure that out eventually. I chose phasers because, you know, cannon and the Enterprise always looks best with phasers. Alright, so first things first, you don't have to use white. We actually prefer that you don't use white. But white is your baseline. It's not going to have any mods on it, so it will just be a basic phaser. And now onto the deflectors. I chose the positron deflector because it grants more healing, as you see. What you want to do with your ship, it's up to you, but do please bear in mind that when you're dead, you're not any use to anybody. Alright, so the engine, you can see the bonuses there. The core, which is actually a fairly recent addition. I chose the plasma integrated because I'm used to working with them, and they do grant a regeneration to power rate. And then there's the shield. I prefer resilient shields because of the only 5% bleed through. And that's actually a fairly decent shield for tanks. And so this is one of our special weapons. It comes from the Omega Reputation. It is the board cutting beam that you see in the TV shows when the board cube latches onto any of the starships and starts cutting into the hull with a little thin red beam. It does, in fact, look like that in the game. Now, on to, like, there's device slots here. I don't have anything in them because I don't intend on using anything for it right now. But this is where your batteries would go, or any of the special little drops. I think I have one on me. Hold on. Yes, this one comes from, of course, the Nimbus Arc. That goes into the device slot as well. As does this one next door. This is from the Davidian Arc. It's actually really good because not a lot uses proton or anti-proton damage fairly early in the game until you get to like the Undine and whatnot. Alright, apologies about that. I had to move because of the lag amplifier. Alright, so engineering consoles. This is a Neutronium. Neutronium is the best out of all of the other engineering consoles because it gives you an all-over damage resistance. That one is an old story mission drop. I don't know if they still give it because it's been a while. The RCS, which is this one right here, gives a plus turn rate, which for cruisers is important because you do need to be able to keep all of your weapons facing the enemy. And if they're moving in circles around you, it's difficult to get that kind of damage done. Now this console here is great. It used to be a drop from one of the story missions, but it was removed when reputations were brought in. But it's now again in the Omega Reputation track. I'll show it to you in a little bit. And it's really good because with using the weapon as well on the ship, you end up with a bonus ability that works in the background. It's part of the Set 2 Omega Weapon Amplifier. You get a 2.5% chance. Yes, that might seem small, but it's a constant chance. So it's not like it's going to just 2.5% each mission. I think it's each for each firing. The meta game is not really my forte. Alright, so this console is usually just for fun. You can find it on the exchange for fairly cheap. It allows you to kind of jump into fluidic space for a brief moment and escape since you can't be targeted, as the console shows. And then on to the science consoles. This is going to be boosting your like space magic abilities. This one is improving my shield emitters, so I can of course heal my shields better than I could baseline. And of course this is a favorite of a lot of people, the isometric charge. Again, it's available on the exchange, or if you can find somebody who happens to have a lot of them and is willing to sell you one dirt cheap. It is an ability of one of the Klingon ships. It was given as a cross-faction console. And this one, and then of course the fluidics phase decoupler, are universal consoles. They can go into any slot. We prefer that you don't slot universals into your tactical consoles because tactical consoles boost your overall damage. And if you don't have tactical consoles in the slots, you can't boost your overall damage. These match up with my weapons. They do boost phaser damage. I'm using white just for the sake of this class. I do have really shiny ones that are available from the fleet stores. Okay, so now that we've got the ship, so just as a brief overview, make sure that your weapons match your tactical consoles. Make sure that you have things that keep you alive. And of course, any kind of boosts along the way are fine. Alright, so now we're going to go into the stations. The stations are shown here in the center-ish of my screen. The assault cruiser refit does come with one universal station, which allows us, or allows you, the pilot or captain, to slot any one of your bridge officers. I chose science in this case because I needed some heals on this ship. I tend to draw a lot of aggro in cruisers. And now you want to make sure that you have multiple copies of certain abilities, mainly tactical abilities, so that while they're on cooldown, you can still use other versions of it, and I'll show you what I mean later. The red is obviously tactical, the yellow is engineering. Change that. So, there we go. What the rarity of your bridge officers is not all that important. It just, the higher rarity will grant you specialized traits. Like, for example, with this human engineer, he gets superior peak health on ground and superior covert because he's purple. That's not important in this case because what we're looking at is the space abilities. Humans have leadership. That is probably one of the better abilities for Federation captains. Because it does, as it shows, grant subsystem repair and hull regen rates. Now, due to some background things that I didn't know, leadership amongst your bridge officers no longer stacks. And hold on, let me change instances real quick. Leadership no longer stacks because it was becoming too good and you wouldn't die. Alright. So all of these abilities I will explain once we get into space, and I can show you what they all do. But just to suffice to say, I'll tell you what all that stuff means later. Alright, so now we're going to go into your your duty officers. Basically like your lieutenants and whatnot are doing their jobs in specific consoles, or at specific consoles on your bridge. Sort of, kind of like. I'm using what I already have. Obviously, you'll have something different. You can get more duty officers from your academy maps. There is a NPC contact that will grant them to you. You also get them when you hit certain levels. And you can purchase extra slots because you get 50 free. I think it's 50. You can purchase extra slots in the Zen store. So, when you get your first ship, you will obviously have 5 active space slots. There is a fleet purchase that will grant you 6, an extra 6th slot. So, I chose duty officers that complement this ship. So we have a con officer who recharges tactical team, or who reduces the recharge of tactical team. We have 2 energy weapon officers that reduce the time for using beam special attacks, like beam fire at will, which is slotted on this ship. I've got a warp core engineer that temporarily improves power on use of any emergency power ability. I'll show you what that means later. And then 2 damage control engineers that reduce the recharge time for emergency power abilities. Now, a lot of these are going to be a bit
User
expensive
disconnected from your channel
at the beginning, but don't worry about it. You can get them through doffing.
User disconnected from your channel.
No, thank you. It's apparently it's 100 free. It's been a while since I've had to do that. I have all 500 now. So don't worry about not having purples and blues right off the bat. Greens are fine, and even sometimes whites are fine. Anything that'll give you an edge against the enemy. All right, so I gave you the kind of the basic gist of the idea. Now we're gonna go into space-ish, since technically you're inside a sphere and you're not really in space. All right, so this is your basic user interface down here at the bottom. Shows your ship, your shields, and your crew. Your crew don't really matter too much, so don't worry about it. And of course, this little button here brings up all your available skills that you can use on this ship. All right, so you want to unlock it, and so that you can move your abilities around. And something that they finally put into the tutorial was how to auto fire, so that all you got to do is press spacebar and your weapons will fire at whatever you're targeting. So we're going to turn all of the beams to auto fire on. There we go. And then we're going to find a home for them. I tend to hide them off on their own so that they don't get in my way. And there's the special beam. It's got a 360 degree arc that allows you to shoot it at any angle. Alright, so now, I mean, a lot of these abilities look nice, like abandoned ship and shoot, where is it? Ramming speed. Everybody loves ramming speed. Too bad it doesn't really do much, since they nerfed it before my time. Alright, so starting out, fleet support is a great ability. When you get below 50% hull, you can call in a couple ships, sometimes it's only one, to assist you. You can get really lucky and get a ship that'll heal you. Other times you'll get like an escort that'll take some aggro off of you. As a tactical captain myself, I do have certain abilities that are not available to engineers in science, like for example the attack pattern alpha. Which does grant a movement and slight damage boost for 30 seconds, as it displays here. Let's see what else. Alright, so a couple of these things are special just because I'm 60 plus, like rock and roll. Everybody loves that. I'll show you what it looks like later. So what I like to do, since I don't use a script to run in the background that'll run my abilities for me every time I press the spacebar, I tend to line all my abilities up so that they match, and all I gotta do is hit my numpad and it'll work. So let's do this, that, up there, healing ability there. I like basic maneuvers there. Alright. And then you get some more heals. That. Put that over here. And some more heals. Now, I set my bars up a certain way because that's just how I'm used to them. You can set them up whatever way feels comfortable to you. It's really up to you. Nobody can see this but you, or in the event that you ever stream. People can see it because that's how you set up your bars. Let's see, what else? Am I missing anything? Put that there. That there. Alright. So for the most part, that's kind of how we're going to do it. Okay, so now that we have that in place, you always want to make sure that you lock your bars so that they don't move around when you're clicking on them, which has happened to me a few times. It's rather annoying, but it happens. Now, you notice down here at the bottom of the screen it shows all these different little colorful icons, and they all each represent a different subsystem of your ship. What you want to do to set specific power levels is this 3 little bars. It'll pull up another little screen, and you want to hit 3. So you see these like bar graph kind of things. The colored part, where the red, the blue, the yellow, and the purple show you what your power levels are set at. The green part is any boost that's given by your gear, or simply your own captain abilities. Now, since we're going to be doing damage to this, we want to select the first option that says attack. Everything shuffles around, let it all come to a rest. You can scroll over it and you can see what your power levels are set to. 125 out of 100, so that means your base power level is 100, and your boost or your bonus power level is up to 125. Now, I'm told that it does go higher, that we can't see it, but with the advent of the new Intel ships and their Intel abilities, you can get up to 160 plus weapons power. Alright, so I like weapons power up to 100. So we're going to lock that up into place. Then you're going to come here to your shield power. And because of all the boosts you can get with this kind of build, we're going to drop it down to 35. And we're going to lock that into place. And then we're going to drop your engine power, which is this yellow bar here, down to 30. Lock that into place. And of course your auxiliary power, which is the purple, which allows you to cast your space magic or your heals, and you set that. And then before you go back to the other screens, you want to make sure that you want to save this, because if not, it will change on you. If you happen to hit any of these other buttons, you can't get your specific settings back. Alright. So there you have it. There's your basics of this. Now we're going to teach you guys how to chain your abilities so that you don't just happen to, say, activate a beam fire at will and start shooting at something, and then when that runs out, you don't do anything. So we can chain it like this so that you have all of your abilities come online at about the same time, which gives you a better overall damage bonus so that you can kill enemies quicker, because that's the name of the game now. Kill the enemy before it can kill you. Alright, so we're gonna go find a patrol that we can do. And the looting screen. Alright. Everybody loves Argala because it's Argala. Alright, so for the sake of this class, if you will, I'm going to tone it down a little bit to normal. Just so that I don't die every 10 seconds, attempting to show you how to not die every 10 seconds. So yeah, this is sector space, everybody knows this, woohoo. I feel that I should have music playing. Alright, so you enter the system. Alright, so that's full impulse. It will lower all of your power levels and shunt it into engines to make you go faster, but it also does hurt you overall. So as you saw that I chained the abilities so that each one activated one right after the other, and then I opened fire, so that I was able to attack both targets at the same time. And now if you notice that I've got abilities off cooldown, so I can use them again once the next round of enemies comes in. So there they are. Now you can select tab to target one of them, or hit tab on your keyboard.
Warning, ship is under attack. Engage weapons and engine.
And then you can start shooting at them again.
Target shield has failed. Recommend torpedo launch now. Rear shield failing.
Alright, if you'll notice that my shields are failing and the computer is telling me that my shields are failing. So you can activate a healing ability right now so that your shields are being healed while you still fire. Do not need to come to a stop to keep shooting.
Left shield failing. Power transfer is recommended.
Now this is where tactical team comes into play. The ability allows you to basically pushes shield power to a side that is getting hit, and it also slightly increases your damage output as well.
Target shield has
If
failed.
you'll watch my power levels as they jump around when I hit emergency power to weapons, which is this little block here, it does give me a boost to energy damage, or energy power, which is great in this case, because who doesn't love having lots of energy power to kill things with? So, and then you can also activate other abilities like this one here. It's rotate shield or reverse shield polarity. It basically turns all incoming energy damage into shield power, which is great when you're first starting out because you don't know how quite to get every ability that you can get all activated at once. That is very annoying, that TOS phaser sound. That's not bad. Alright, so there's a couple other abilities that I haven't really described yet. It's one of these. It's brace for impact. When you see a torpedo coming at you, hit this and it will lessen the damage that you take because, of course, all of your crew is ready for that torpedo.
Target shields have failed. Recommend torpedo launch now.
Alright, so as you see, we just keep cycling all of the abilities as they come off cooldown, so that you can cut through the enemies faster. And yep, as things come off cooldown, you just keep hitting things. I refuse to use the spacebar .text thing because just simply I like activating my abilities myself. It gives me that little bit of control as captain that I like, because I like telling people what to do. And there isn't many opportunities in this game that allow you to do that. Alright, if you'll notice that I always keep the side of my ship, or try to always keep the side of my ship pointed towards the enemy, that way all of my weapons can come to bear, which in cruisers is called broadsiding. Just like the old naval vessels that had all the cannons on the side, so too applies to these ships. And because of the arc to the weapons, and I'll show you what that means there. So, just to show very faintly, you can see the little blue bit that's shown on the front of my ship. That shows you the arc for the weapon, where the weapon can fire. For phaser arrays, it's usually 250 degrees. There are a couple exceptions to that rule, like the Omni beam and the cutting beam. Here, that's 180 or 360. Sorry. So yeah, as you can hear, my computer does tell me that certain parts of my ship are either weak or that the enemy is lost their shields and can fire torpedoes at them. It is a simple setting found in the menus. I don't quite remember where. And it just kind of adds ambiance to the whole thing, because that's kind of what happened in the TV shows, and so I like to hear it myself. Alright, so that's basic space combat as well. You do want to just keep moving. A still target means you get no defense boost from being in motion. I don't really have anything else. Except for, I did forget about the traits that you can slot on your captain so that you're more effective in space or on ground. These are all of my abilities. Some of them are purchased, like Inspirational Leader and Intense Focus. You can find those on the exchange. Usually now they're fairly expensive. They have been out for a while, and some of them are really good. Or you get, like, Living Hull here is one of the mission rewards from the specials. It's surface tension? Yes, surface tension rewards Living Hull. And you can go back and rerun it and get all of the bits that you want. Just make sure that you are slotting space traits while you're in space, denoted by this little starship. Next to it, ground traits obviously are the little person. I don't really have anything else for the basics. But that's the very basics of the ship. I'm not telling you guys to go out and just completely change your build to match mine, or your playstyle to match mine, but that's just how I enjoy to play. I like the beam arrays because, you know, you see that in all of the TV shows. For the Federation ships, they always have beam arrays on them. Very rarely did you see the cannons, except on like the Defiant, whatnot. But fly what you enjoy. Use whatever energy type color that you like. And just make sure that you are using your bridge officers to the full extent. That's what they're there for you to exploit. And to make yourself better. There's no reason to waste a ship by not using bridge officers, or not being able to heal yourself, or even just simply not firing back, or not even having matching damage consoles to your beam arrays. There are a few exceptions to those rules, but we won't get into them this time around because that's not my area of expertise. Basic builds is what I'm good at. And so, of course, you saw basic builds. It did fairly well. It didn't die. It held its own, and it did manage to deal a fair amount of damage, because Kazon carriers are annoying that way. I don't know if anybody has any questions or whatnot, but that is the basic idea of what to do for ships. Have fun out there, guys. Oh, right. I did forget. I did promise to show you the reputation. So, I think it's... Is it... Gives it... Yes, okay. So, Omega Tier 1 gets you the console. See it. A lot of gear to scroll through. Alright, so the console is Omega Tier 1. The cutting beam is Tier 2 on the Omega reputation. And the Omega marks, of course, are the easiest to get. They're all done through the Borg STFs, which are available here on the PvEQ menu. At level 50, I believe you're only allowed normal and advanced. When you hit 60, you open up elite. Okay, so we got a question about whether it's better to go broadside beams or slip a cannon in there. Beams, as far as I know, have no drop-off point where the farther you are from a target, the less damage you have. But cannons do. With cannons, you have to be within 5 kilometers of your target, which sometimes is a bit too close for comfort for some people. If you can sit out at 9 kilometers and still deal your normal damage with beam arrays, then a lot of people find that it's easier to maneuver that far out. By all means, if you want to slip a cannon in there, you can. Or even like a torpedo if you want. I happen to have no spec points in torpedoes, so I tend not to use them. But let's see. I probably should do spec points too. I apologize if I ramble because I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, we'll do skill points. So, your skill points do denote what abilities your captain can train and what you're good at. Like, for example, mine are focused on doing damage and energy weapons. You really don't need more than 6 points in anything, except certain ones like warp core efficiency and warp core potential. The more points you have, the higher your bonus power is for your subsystems, and that means the more power is available to you. Don't worry about the ground, it's not really important. Put points in what you want to work with, and of course scrolling over them will tell you what, or clicking on it will tell you what it's good for. Alright, so that's it, and you guys got any more questions? There are respec tokens available in the C store. They are 500. Yeah, 500. So they're 500 Zen, and of course you can just grind out dilithium for that and convert to Zen. But I mean, your first character, of course, is obviously going to be that experimental one, the one that you don't quite know what you're going to do. But as a silver player, you do have access to 3 slots. So you can experiment with your first one, and then you'll know what to do for the second and third. And then once you get your 3 characters going, you can grind out the dilithium just by playing any of the STFs or any of the PvE missions, and then convert it to Zen, and then you can retrain the first one. It's all up to you. The great part about this game is really, as long as you're having fun, you're doing it right. But we want to make sure that you're not being pulled through missions by your team members, that you are, of course, contributing to the group as a whole. And sometimes it would be nice to see new people on top of the DPS charts. And with that, I'm going to sign off. And this is just probably going to be the first one. We'll probably do other ones as we go. And there might be even other live streams and or videos that'll be popping up in the future. Just keep an eye out and have fun, guys.